meeting to order. I'd like to start by acknowledging that this meeting is respectfully held on the traditional territory of Sycus First Nation, on whose land we live, work, and play. We have an agenda circulated. Would somebody like to move adoption? Seconder? All in favor? That's carried. 3.1, we have the funding, service, and license agreement for the Van Hoof Public Library Association. Bill, would you like to talk to that?
Yep, sure. So in discussions with the library board, we decided to put together an agreement. We've been operating all this time just on good faith between us. And so we decided to put together an agreement that would actually help to lay out the foundation of exactly how we operate together. We have circulated what the conditions are that are associated with it, but we're making one small revision just under the district operating grant and library association, how exactly the grant funding is to be dealt with. And it just provides some clarity just in regards to what areas that we will consider as part of the discussions back and forth. The way that it was written originally, there was a little bit of ambiguity between the way that it was interpreted for the grant funding, if it was operational, that we had the ability to take that into consideration. But it didn't narrow it down to just the operating funds that were coming from the district. So there was some conversations back and forth, and we've got a little bit of a revision here. So which we believe will be acceptable to both sides.
Okay, any questions or comments on the agreement? Councillor Frankel. We're just dealing with more technical difficulties.
No, it's the, should be there. For some reason we lost our internet.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, just maybe have the same question as Cindy, but the agreement before us is the one that is amended, or do you have an amendment yet tonight that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, there's just a small amendment to section 13.2 under F.
Okay.
And so it says the library association shall not request from the district, and then funds for operating reserve more than the value of 6 months. So if they're beyond that, then they won't request that. And then also the funds for minor capital reserve more than 50,000 without a capital plan approved by the district. So it just provides that clarity that it's the district's contributions that are in consideration there.
Was this discussed on last week's meeting with the library? Or
it was discussed with them, and I
Okay.
just presented that with them right now. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So, yeah. You have to push.
To push. Okay. Some nights I do, some nights I don't. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Because I had a lot of, I was just, as I read section 13.2E, it said to me, no funds from the district shall be allocated towards an operating or capital reserve without prior written authorization. And then I just thought that kind of handled what you just said. And then I was confused by section F then. So it's just the operating money for operations that the district.
That's correct. That's what we're putting restrictions on, is the funds that we provide. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I can no longer turn it off.
Oh.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
So the recommendation will have to be as amended.
Yeah. Does somebody want to make the recommendation as amended?
I'll second.
Go Cindy and then Tom. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, moving on, 3.2. Pauline, do you want to speak to that? I'll let you finish typing first, yeah.
Okay, so this is the draft official community plan bylaw. It doesn't have a number yet because I don't like to give numbers until a bylaw has a report to council. So it is before council to see the revisions that have been made pursuant to the new housing legislation. There's not a lot we had to change, so I've been working with Urban Systems, who's also doing it for other communities. So the changes are highlighted in yellow. There are a few other little changes throughout the bylaw, but it's mostly formatting or correcting past typos and stuff. So our zoning bylaw doesn't have to be changed at all, as it says in Urban Systems memo on the agenda package. So these are by no means all the changes we want to make to the OCP, but they are the changes we need to make for the new legislation. So the recommendation is that this bylaw go forward as a brand new OCP. And then in the next year or two, other changes we might want to make, we can make as amendments to this bylaw. But there's a deadline for getting the bylaws adopted, which is come and gone, which the province is aware of, and they're perfectly fine with it. So it's before council for discussion, for input, and then I'd like council to decide what kind of public engagement they would like. Urban Systems said that because of the amount of changes to the bylaw, many communities our size are just putting it on the website, putting it out there that it's there for review for those highlighted sections, and that people can submit questions and we can have the consultant answer them because it's their field, it's not my field. Or we can have a drop-in open house and have the consultant online if we want, or we can wait and have them at the public hearing. So tonight, after discussion, if you have input into it, it'd be nice to have a resolution to send it for 2 readings and what type of public engagement you would like. So if you have any questions about the text, I have whole questions.
Go ahead, Councillor Frankel.
I'll go first. It's pretty rare. Just want to ask staff, so this is the official community plan, and as I understand it, we're amending it because of the new legislation that has come out. Do we have a future date when we would do an entire OCP?
So this isn't an amendment. This is a brand new OCP with those changes made because we had to have a new OCP with the changes made. The next full OCP has to be adopted by 2028. Yeah. So we have time to plan more for that because a brand new OCP takes a lot of going out to schools and public and stakeholders and stuff. And it's just not in this year's timeline.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Lozay.
Okay, so these are the recommendation or what we're required to do, not recommendations, the requirements. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Does somebody want to make?
I'll make that motion that we,
Second that.
that motion,
That it be sent for
yes,
first
and second
second reading. Thank
And
you.
how about public? Don't really need to put that in the resolution,
No.
providing directions to staff.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
make
we have-
that and then, yeah.
Did you second, Ken? Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, engagement. What do we want to see? We would still have a public hearing in that case?
We have to have a public hearing. So the public engagement is more for people to ask questions. The public hearing is for them to give their opinion. Right? So if they need clarification on what the policies and that say, big changes. So if they want clarification on that, that's what the public engagement is for. And then the public hearing is when they come and say, I'm against or I'm for, and why. Yeah.
And would we be able to highlight the changes? Because, you know, so then if you're used to seeing an older OCP version, we can just look at the yellows and these are the changes. Okay, thank you.
So I'll put that in when it goes out on our website and social media. I'll put that out there that the changes are in yellow. Nothing else has changed. And if you're going to submit input or ask questions, it's about those yellow sections. Anything other than those, we can consider at a future date for amendments.
So do you think that in the implications of those changes also might need to be addressed at that time, or how it might affect? Because I think that's
So really the changes are the policies that we have to include
Right.
about different types of housing.
right.
And I think that the consultant would be better able to answer the public's questions
Okay.
about those. Yeah. So that's why if people submitted questions, I would send them off to our own
Off to the
systems and
consultants. Okay,
get
perfect.
responses back and
I
get
see.
back to
Yep.
people, or put it like
Yeah.
almost like an FAQ that we
Yeah.
just did
Mhm.
on
Yeah,
Facebook
okay.
and on our website.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Because a lot of it, when you look at the yellow sections, a lot of it is like an update of the demographics, whole paragraphs about the new legislation and why we have to do it. It's not so much changes to
Changes
the
to
actual OCP.
Yeah. But thank you.
So is everybody comfortable with that? Okay, I don't think we need to vote, right? We can just, yeah. Okay, thanks. Moving on, 3.3 UBCM minister meetings. Yeah, that's me. I asked for this to come on. I just wanted to go through the meetings we had, the responses we got, and where we felt we should be maybe doing some follow-up on our side, or where it's at, right? We had a number where we got no response back from the ministers, which is really discouraging, right? It used to be you always got a response, but this seems to be the new normal. Go ahead.
So I spoke to UBCM last week, and she said that ministers were given the option this year of responding or not. And I said, we can't get a meeting without a question, but we don't get answers if we don't get a letter back. And she's taking that back to UBCM. But they also said because of the strike, that a lot of things were pushed aside and not, so the letters may not have been done because the strike wasn't settled by then.
Okay, first meeting was on brownfields with Minister Davidson. And we'll just keep this pretty informal and chat, like still put hands up in that. I'll just give a little my synopsis. This one is like beating your head against a wall. We've done this so many times and we didn't really get any further this time either. And how you actually get somebody to truly engage on this, I do not know. If anybody's got any suggestion on or any other synopsis, go ahead, Councilor Gondola.
It's almost like there's an unwillingness to make changes to current legislation or to take, really sink their teeth in and do something with this issue. Like we actually went down there and provided some options, solutions, and they kind of looked at us like we were on glue. So I don't know what to do here, because when you have a whole agency that's absolutely unwilling to go forward and make so many different brownfield locations right across the province a better place for BC to be, and they're just unwilling to do it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councilor Young.
I know we brought this up before, but to me, the only way we can really get anything to develop out of this is talking about in terms of a northern solution, because it works down south. Like you said, it's across the province. It is, but it's working down south because the properties, we've gone over this so much, right? The properties are so
Yeah.
valuable and they're not here. So even if you just look right across Highway 16 and we've talked about this many times, trying to get folks together, to bring a concerted effort, and we've talked about it through the NCLGA and doing other aspects, but I think we have to put our heads around it somehow and doing something different, or just stop bringing it down, because we can't do the same thing over and over again. It has to have a refresh. There has to be a different way of presenting it. They're not hearing it. I agree with you, you know, in today's day and age, talking about environmental situations and the whole focus across the province, they're not even acknowledging this is a huge impact in these small communities. There's not that understanding. There's not that, you know, seeing, you know, they talk about economic development in our communities as we transition out of forestry and all these other pieces. Well, it's killing us in terms of trying to develop business on those thoroughways through all of our communities. It's terrible for our tourism industry when people look at these dead and dying areas. So how do we create more focus as a northern group? And I mean, we can't just do this by ourselves.
No.
It's affecting all of us up here. So I think it's worth one more kick of the can to see people work with us. If they won't, are we wasting resources doing this? Like, because it's a lot of time our staff spending on creating documents and planning and doing all these things, and we're not getting any further. We have to do it differently or stop.
Yeah.
Because we have other areas to put the resources into then. So.
Absolutely. And you know, when you say that, my mind immediately goes to, well, should we ask NCLGA to facilitate a task force or something? But then do you do that, or do you pick it up by yourself and start inviting mayors or councillors to come and?
Doesn't it feel like we get more done when we do it that way?
Yeah, it does.
Because then it's the agenda of those who really want to push it as a group.
Yeah.
Or are passionate about it, because I think there's certain communities that are affected more than others, but all of us in the north are. Because we have that lane that goes, or sorry, that highway that goes right through the middle of all our communities, and those old gas stations litter this whole northern landscape right through there. And so this isn't a one-off. This isn't just
Yeah.
Vander's problem. We know that.
No.
But it feels like they don't understand it's across, because when we go down there and bring our other issues, or we have so many here in the north, I don't think enough of us are combining our energies around it, because it is huge for all of our communities.
Yeah.
But we've got so many other things that we have to deal with as well that I think gets lost in the noise. So.
So maybe that's something we can work on, is thinking out how that would look like and how we would invite people to join us to take that action. I really think that is a good idea, that we go down in some sort of a united way with a
Mhm.
united plan.
At least
like
one
that.
more time, we take a really concerted effort as a group, you know, like a northern group. I think that would be great.
Good. Okay, next one was Minister of Forests. Again, we didn't get a response on this one. Obviously, the COM4 expansion was dealt with down there to a large degree. The other part of it was the taking back timber or tenure after a mill closure. Again, I think that's something we've just got to keep their feet to the fire on. Somebody want to speak? We will be meeting, Councillor Van Doler and Councillor Franklin. I will be meeting with the Minister of Forests at 7 a.m. on Wednesday. And we'll be sure to bring this back up again. Maybe bring him a coffee to make sure he's awake for that meeting too. But yeah. Obviously, this is something that's just killing us. I don't know, Councillor Van Doler, not to put you on the spot, any idea where CAM4's extraction from
So
Block D?
I was just happened to go on to the Harvest Billing System reporting here the other day, and the license that they've been operating on is forest license A18157 down at the bottom end of our supply block D of the timber supply area. And they've taken about 362,000 cubic meters. So when you do if you kind of use a 60 cubic meter per truck, because they have been using 9 axles on that one, as well as the 7 and 8s. And so, you know, if you kind of amortize it out to the 60, it works out to about 4,500 truckloads that have gone through town. Now, interestingly enough, very little volume was hauled in December, so that's kind of telling me that they're wrapping up most of the harvesting that's going on at the bottom end of the district. There's probably not much left down there.
Mr. Fickle?
Just to let everyone know, and I think we talked about this really briefly at the beginning of the meeting, before we started. Big conventions like Truck Loggers Association in Vancouver, a big forestry convention. No local government reps on stage, no one pushing local government. Natural Resource Forum this week, same scenario. Nobody's pushing local government. No local government people are up on the stage. No, it's shocking to see these organizations like Truck Loggers and Natural Resources with C3 Alliance are not paying attention to local government.
Was it them who invite us or we?
No, they traditionally have always invited local government, whoever that may be. Now, I do know that Kofi does have a session in April, which is good, as they should. But, you know, we can't let people turn their backs on forestry in British Columbia. And that's what I feel seems to be happening. So if it's not us, it goes back to what Councillor Young talked about with the brownfields. We've got to keep kicking at this can. And it's a part of our economic backbone. And so working with Nechako and doing those things are really important to the viability of communities. And obviously you saw that tonight with Houston's letter about what it means in tax loss out there. It's massive. And if we are not advocating for resource communities in British Columbia, nobody will. Not a soul will. So we've got to do our best to, you know, and I'm glad the mayor's going to Natural Resources this week and Kofi, because we need to have that presence. But behind the scenes, we should keep advocating as much as we can.
Absolutely. Any other comments on that one? Okay, next up was Minister of Health. We did not get a meeting. I think on this one, we're fortunate that we do have a reasonable connection with Minister Osborne, and we'll push to try and make that happen, whether we get a half hour here, whether we try and line up another trip going down to Victoria and line up with a few ministers, one way or the other. We'll make sure that we get a meeting with Minister Osborne. Any comments on that? Okay, housing and municipal affairs. And this one, just for the public, I'll just preface it. This is one that we have requested for so many years in a row and have not got a meeting. And it's just such a frustration. You know, it's a different minister now, but the same response. I did quietly, when we had the meeting with the Premier, talked about this quietly in his ear on the way out, but it's something that I think if we need to somehow get on the map and make sure they are talking to rural government as well as just the larger centers. Any other comments on that?
I think that definitely in other situations, much similar like the others, where the housing situation is vastly different than it is here in the north again. And for us to become communities, you know, we've heard in the past about ministers saying, well, you need to become destinations for folks to come to, et cetera, and do all these things in terms of housing. And then when we meet with in the past, I know Councillor Laze and I a few years ago, sitting in some of these meetings with representatives from BC Housing, et cetera, and every single one of the situations is made for urban centers only. And so they're again, that made in the north type of program, or even just to look at our ideas that are outside the box of things that can and will fit our urban centers. It's the age old thing that we always bring up living in it, right? But this is another one of those instances where it really comes home to you that they don't understand. In order for us to have communities or vibrant, viable opportunities for others to come into, we need that housing in place, and they need to help us come up with creative ways of doing it. And there's a lot of great ideas in our community around that, but we're not getting that support in terms of programs, et cetera. So again, how do we do that? Do we keep bringing solutions to them? You know, I like how our council operates in the past. We bring the solutions around brownfields, whatever. Maybe we haven't been successful, but we're going, hey, look, we're not asking you to solve our problems.
Yeah.
Here's a way we can do it. Tell us what to do next. So this one's frustrating that they're not even responding.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when the message is, do
Yeah.
these things in your community. Okay, we want to. You know, just,
We've got a plan.
yeah, we got a plan. And we're not asking for them to do it all. That's the difference too, right? We're not asking for that. So.
And the frustration there is the provincial policy that we're, forced to adopt, we don't have a choice on it, isn't addressing rural housing matters, right? Like, it isn't relevant at all, so. Yeah. They're very much not getting it, so, yeah. Okay, moving on, Northern Health. Met with Chiro, he seems to be settling into his role a bit, which is good, but bringing over those same issues we've been having. There has been a lot better coverage of the ER here in Vanderhoof for sure. There's still issues, Fort St. James and Burns Lake, but Vanderhoof ER hasn't been down in quite some time and doesn't look to be in, there's nothing on the radar that would look like that. So that's a good thing. The LPN issue is still ongoing. We have a meeting on the 23rd with CNC. Had a really good meeting with them in December before the Christmas break, where we're looking at what will it take to do an LPN program in Vanderhoof. And we're also had some talks with an industry partner that may be willing to fund the lack of spots, if you will, fund the empty seats to make the program happen. So if we can do that, if we can reach out to some other industries that maybe require nurses for camps, etc., maybe we can make a sustainable program. So that's really been a big focus right now, and how do we make that happen? But never had such positive back from CNC in quite some time, so I'm really encouraged, Councillor Lozzie.
So I'm just would like to understand what the barriers are. Why is it because of the expense of running the program and not enough seats? Is that why we need the industry sponsorship, or what are the hurdles?
So it's threefold. You have the infrastructure actually in the lab. They would
Right.
need,
Yes.
and I was given a number, I don't believe the number, so I'm not even going to repeat it. It was way too high, but
Okay.
you need an upgrade in the lab.
Okay.
You need teachers to be
Right.
here,
I
and they
understood
need
that.
housing. So that's, both of those have been identified as barriers, and finding actually just housing to have a teacher in town. If it's probably not going to be somebody from Vanderhoof, right? Then the other one is this sort of how many LPNs we can absorb. Probably for 2 years, we could absorb everyone that came out. It's a
Right.
2-year program.
Right.
After that, it's maybe 4, a cohort's 8. So then how do you get around that issue,
Right.
right? Is the
see.
question. And a lot of things could be, done online. Then Northern Lights is doing quite a bit of their LPN program online, which is great for the classroom stuff if you can make that work and then cut down those. So there might be a bigger cohort with some other small communities, and then they come together.
I
But
see.
that's the thing, is we're just not quite big enough. Vanderhoof, Fort St. James, Fraser Lake, maybe Burns Lake is where you would probably draw from, right?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Young.
I think that movement in terms of looking at industry, being able to, to come to the table on this is huge, because that hasn't been the case in numerous programs that we discussed in the past. So to see movement there, that's very exciting, because as you know, in other programs that we asked about, it was a dead no. So
Yep.
to see some evolution of thought there finally, that's awesome. So I just want to say that's a good thing, then that piece. And some of the others I think we can fix, but just getting that, I think that philosophical change, because we were stuck in the mud there a long time. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Any other questions on either that or Northern Health? Seeing none, let's move on. Oh, quite well, to post-secondary education and future skills, which was talking about doing exactly that. So again, for the audiences, it was actually, these are 15-minute meetings we get. The regional district of Bulkley and Chaco had a meeting on the same thing the 15 minutes prior. So we actually got a half hour because I presented through the whole thing. So it was good to get that bit of extended time. I'm not sure the minister was super impressed, but it was good to put it there. Again, really outlining, we need a variety of healthcare positions, but LPN is that one that stands out as a really big need right now. Yeah, and there is a little bit of a push too. I'll just put that to try and figure out, can we do it as a earn and learn program? For the CARE program, the HCAP, that's been so successful that people aren't worrying where the groceries are coming from while they're doing that training. So is there a way to do something like that to win these targeted positions that we really want to fill? Any more questions there? We did get a response from her. That was good. And then we had the meeting with the Premier, which was generally a very good meeting. Good to get in front of him. We brought up the LPN issue. Again, it's something we're working on. We brought up the Nechako White Sturgeon Conservation Center. That has not, again, just for those that aren't in the room or aren't usually in the room, that's something where they haven't had long-term sustainable funding, and the province comes up with funding every year on a sort of ad hoc basis. And that really makes it difficult for freshwater fisheries to run the facility. So we've been pushing that. They think they have somewhat of a solution, but it's probably going to be looking at 2 to 3 year funding envelopes, but it's better than year to year, right? So that's kind of what we got there. Then the third was the take back of volume after mill closures. And again, much like the forest minister, that's going to be keeping the feet to the fire and just pushing that whatever fiber there is needs to stay here. We had the meeting with Public Safety and Solicitor General on the detachment replacement. We did receive a letter back stating that would be a lot sooner than we thought. So again, that's one that we will keep pushing on that letter and moving that we will get it. Actually, that was from the RCMP. That'll come later on. That was from the RCMP. It wasn't from the Public Safety and Solicitor General. I think it was very good that we brought the photos that Councillor Frankel took to that meeting, showing the cement blocks outside the detachment. And yeah. Any comment?
That situation on the community and the individuals at the detachment was really good too, because I think they were completely unaware of the deep impact that had. So that was valuable time. Whether or not we got as far as we like, I think that message stuck after we left. So that was good.
Yeah. Okay, next one was with the RCMP. Again, on the detachment, the building itself, and then staffing afterwards. We did receive a letter back to them on the detachment replacement. Again, we'll be following up on that and trying to push that as hard as we can. And that is it. Any general comments or questions after going through that? Go ahead, Councillor Frankel.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to give some thought to this, whether we do it or not, it seems to be an uptake. We get 15 minutes when we go to these things. We miss a lot, not a lot of the convention, but we do miss, some of the seminars. And I'm wondering, and you had done this with Randine Neal, Minister of Environment, prior to UBCM, and we should give some thought whether we can do those meetings just outside of UBCM, because we're getting half an hour, possibly half an hour instead of 15 minutes, and I think you can make a better case. And then when we go to convention, we can participate in everything, right? So I'm just thought.
So when I spoke to UBCM last week, the woman in charge of the minister meetings, I said during COVID, council got half-hour Teams meetings with the ministers the week following UBCM. And she said, would you prefer that? And I said, I have to check with council, half an hour on Teams versus like 10 minutes really after introductions in person. So she said to find out and get back to her, because that's something they might think about. Because I said, most of our counselors paid for a conference they didn't attend. So if council wants me to get back to her with saying you'd prefer to set up half-hour meetings the week following, they might introduce it to other communities as well.
Go ahead, Councillor Young.
That's a great idea. Grant us a meeting. It'd be awesome to be able to get a meeting that way afterwards. Then.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at it two ways, right? So I don't want to say what are the excuses for not meeting? They were booked right up, but it also allows us to get some of these meetings later on that we missed. Anyway. Not sure if they would want to do that, but at least we're throwing that out there.
Councillor Franco.
Yeah, just to follow up to Councillor Young, I agree that we should probably take a hard look at the half hour. It was very difficult in Victoria because you're going through security every time you're going through. And so it adds a lot of time that you're away. And not that it's a far distance from the Victoria Conference, but it's far enough. And then security and then all of that to get to a meeting in Vancouver, it's upstairs. It's like you can pop out of a seminar and then go do your 15 minutes and be right back into the seminar. So, but I like the half hour. I'd love to see us get to a half hour before or after.
Yeah.
UCM.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then we're adjourned.